The film begins in the future with the terrifying advancement of technology. All the world's currencies have disappeared at this time, and humanity is controlled by a new system. This system sets a person's lifespan at 25 years, granting one free year after 25. To live longer than that, one must work to earn the time they will live by. Every person has a count of hours tattooed on their arm to know how much time they have left before they die and can add to it. The world is divided into two zones: a very rich zone with a vast number of hours where people live long lives, and a poor zone where people struggle to earn more time to live longer. We learn that time is stored in time capsules, and these capsules are what allow the rich to give hours to the poor. Of course, in exchange for a certain number of work hours the poor person performs for the rich person. We go to the poor zone, where Will lives with his mother alone in a house. We learn that Will is 28 years old, meaning his allotted lifespan ended 3 years ago. Since then, he has been working and earning time to support himself and his mother following his father's death. He tries to bridge the gap between the poor and rich zones. Today is his mother's 50th birthday, and she wishes on her birthday that they could move together to the rich zone, but because the number of hours they have isn't enough, they can't move there. Despite being 50, her appearance is frozen at 25. Before Will leaves for work, he promises her that they will move to the rich zone soon. He leaves her, saying he will meet her the next day at the bus stop when she returns from work. On his way down, he goes to his friend Boral's house. On the way, he meets a little girl named Maya, a very poor girl living in the same zone. The other residents try to help her because she lives alone. Will donates 5 minutes from his clock to her and bids her farewell to go to Boral's. When he arrives at his friend's house, he meets Boral's wife, who has just given birth to a new baby. She tells him that the baby's clock hasn't started yet and that she wished it had so they could borrow hours from it to change their lives. Then they go to their workplace and start their normal day. At the end of the day, they go together to a bar as they do every day. There, Will learns that there is a man in the bar with 100 years on his clock. He fears for him because everyone in the bar is from the poor zone, and the presence of someone like him among them is dangerous. They might kill him to take his time and use it. So Will goes to him and tells him he must escape quickly before they find out he has 100 years and kill him. But suddenly, a man named Fort and his gang appear, saying they are after that person and want to steal his time. The man, Henry, says he needs to go to the bathroom and uses that opportunity to escape with Will's help. After escaping from the bar, they hide in an abandoned building because Fort won't be able to reach them there. There, Henry tells his story to Will. We learn from him that he is 150 years old, with 100 years still left on his clock, but he is tired of life and wants to die. That's why he moved from the rich zone to the poor zone, hoping they would kill him and take his time. He says here that humans must die to make room for others yet to be born on the planet, and because the rich zone controls everything, they decide that those who die will be from the poor zone, not them, so they can preserve their wealth of time and ensure they live long lives. After that, they both sleep from exhaustion. The next morning, Henry donates the 100 years he has to Will. When Will wakes up, he sees Henry trying to throw himself into the water. He tries to save him, but doesn't make it in time, and Henry dies after his time runs out. Will flees quickly before the police arrive and discover the truth. However, the cameras film him standing watching Henry. At that moment, the time police arrive at the place where Henry died. The time police are the people responsible for preserving time and preventing time crimes. The most famous officer among them is named Leon. His assistant tells him that 100 years were stolen from Henry before he died, and their mission is to retrieve those 100 years as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, Will's mother goes to the bus stop to meet Will as agreed, but she can't afford the bus fare because it costs 2 hours and she only has 1 hour. So she runs the rest of the way to reach Will before her time runs out and she dies. At the same time, Will notices his mother is late for their meeting and also runs to reach her before her time runs out. On the way, he meets his mother, but he doesn't reach her in time. Her time runs out and she dies. At that moment, Will decides to take revenge on the rich to avenge his mother's death. The next day, he goes to the rich zone. There, he notices the strange looks from people, mainly because he looks poor, unlike them, but he doesn't care. He looks for a hotel to stay in. While entering the hotel, a beautiful girl named Sylvia sees him and is intrigued by him. We learn that Sylvia is the daughter of one of the wealthy, who has a massive fortune of time equivalent to 1 billion years. Sylvia keeps observing him throughout the day. After a few days, Will goes to a place where the rich gamble. This place belongs to Philippe, Sylvia's father. Very easily, everyone present notices that Will is from the poor zone, so they focus on him the whole time. Philippe offers Will to gamble for all the time he has. Will agrees and bets all his time against the others sitting with them. The winner will receive 1,000 years as a gift. Will is down to only 20 seconds on his clock when, just before it runs out, he wins the bet and gets the 1,000 years. Philippe congratulates him on his win and introduces him to his daughter, Sylvia. Will is captivated by her and talks to her. Philippe tells him they will meet again tomorrow at a party he is hosting at his house, and they can play again if he agrees. Will agrees and leaves to return to the hotel. At the same time, the police are looking for the person who stole from Henry. They find out that Will was present at the moments of Henry's suicide. Police officer Leon suspects that Will stole the time from Henry. Will and Sylvia return to the party so no one notices their absence. At that moment, Leon arrives and says he wants to question him. Leon asks Will about Henry and tells him the cameras filmed him present at Henry's death. Will tells him the truth, saying that Henry donated his 100 years to him because he was tired of life and wanted to die. But of course, Leon doesn't believe him and tells him he will arrest him on charges of theft and murder. He orders his assistants to withdraw all the time Will has, leaving him with only 2 hours so he doesn't die. He leaves him and goes out to talk to Philippe. Will takes advantage of Leon being distracted, escapes from the room, and takes Sylvia's hostage to help him escape from the place. As soon as they leave the villa, he takes his father's car and they both flee. On their way, Sylvia argues with him because he kidnapped her and put her in danger. He tries to explain to her that he kidnapped her to escape from the place. The next day, on the road, they have a car accident, causing both Will and Sylvia to lose consciousness. Fort arrives at the accident scene. He was looking for Will from the beginning to take the 100 years from him, but he discovers that Will has less than an hour and a half left, so he leaves him and takes the 10 years Sylvia has, leaving her with less than an hour, and flees. At that moment, they regain consciousness and discover that Sylvia's time has been stolen. Will tells her he will get back all the years stolen from her. They both go to Burrell's house, Will's friend, but Burrell's wife tells them that he died the same day Will donated 10 years to him because he kept drinking alcohol all day and died from drinking. Will apologizes to her and leaves. He is already upset and their time is about to run out and they will die, so he goes to a place that buys jewelry in exchange for time and offers Sylvia's earrings. They agree and give him 2 days in exchange for the earrings. Later that day, he tells her his story. He tells her he lived alone with his mother after his father's death. He says his father died while trying to equalize the rich and poor zones, but didn't manage to do it before he died. That's why Will is trying to steal time from the rich and give it to the poor. Sylvia tells him she will help him with that and make her father give him 1,000 years to return to the house. The next day, he calls Sylvia's father and offers to return Sylvia in exchange for 1,000 years, giving him until the next day to think. After that, he goes to the house. At that time, Leon, who heard the call, manages to locate Will and decides to go to him the next day to arrest him. The next day, Will goes with Sylvia to call her father. Sylvia asks her father to give Will the time, so he lets her return home, but he refuses and tells her that Leon is close to them and will arrest him. Sylvia looks behind her and sees Leon pointing his gun at Will. She shoots him, and Leon falls to the ground. Will quickly goes to him and donates some of his own time to him so he stays alive until his colleagues rescue him. Will tells Leon he won't stop until he completes what his father started and equalizes the poor and rich zones. On their way, Sylvia asks him about the reason that made him risk his time. Will tells her the truth, saying that police officers have little time, and as their time decreases, they take time from the capsule in their car. But he was afraid Leon would die before reaching his car, or that the police wouldn't reach him before his time ran out and he died. At the same time, Sergeant Greg reaches Leon and finds the people of the poor zone gathered around Leon, mocking him because Will escaped from him. At the end of the day, Leon goes to Philippe's office. Leon tells him Sylvia has become a criminal and also the subject of his lawsuits. Philippe tries to bribe him to bring his daughter back as soon as possible, but Leon refuses and leaves. The next day, Sylvia says she will help him achieve his dream, so she goes with him to one of her father's time banks. They break into this bank and distribute all the hours they stole from the bank to the residents of the poor zone. At that time, Leon locates their place and tells his assistants to wait in front of the hotel they are in. However, at that moment, they notice the police cars in front of the hotel, so Will quickly takes Sylvia and escapes from the roof. Leon runs after them to catch them, but he can't catch them, and Will and Sylvia escape from him. They go to a hotel far from the zone and rent the entire hotel just for the two of them, so no one recognizes them and reports them to the police. While going to their room, they see a person who was coming to book at the same hotel. At the end of the day, Fort and his gang intercept a group of residents from the zone and threaten to withdraw their time if they don't tell him Will's location. The person who saw Will in the morning gives him the hotel address. When Fort arrives at the hotel, he orders his assistants to capture them before they escape. He captures Sylvia and threatens Will that he will kill her if he doesn't listen. He forces him to give him all his time or he will kill her. Will agrees and says he will give him all the time he has. He sits in front of Fort, who begins to withdraw his time. Will is down to less than 10 seconds when he starts to withdraw time from Fort's watch. Before Fort's time runs out and he dies, Will pulls out a gun and kills the rest of the gang, leaving Fort to die alone because his time ran out. He and Sylvia escape before Leon arrives to arrest them. At the end of the day, Sylvia tells Will that they still aren't helping people enough and that the system raises prices to reclaim the time they are stealing. Will tells her that's the same thing that happened to his father, and that's why they need more time. Leon chases them until they reach the poor zone. As soon as Will arrives at the poor zone, he gives the time capsule to the little girl named Maya and tells her to distribute all this time to the residents of the poor zone. When Leon arrives, he tries to arrest Will, but all the residents of the poor zone help Will and try to escape.
On their escape route, Leon manages to locate them again and reaches them. But he forgets to take his time from the time capsule before getting out of the car and is down to less than a minute on his watch. Will notices that Leon has less than a minute left before his time runs out and he dies, so he tries to get his attention until his time actually runs out. After a few seconds, Leon's time runs out and he dies before he can arrest Will. However, at that moment, Will and Sylvia discover that they too only have a few minutes left and will die. The poor zone is far from them and they won't make it before their time runs out. At that moment, Will remembers the time capsules in the police cars, so he runs quickly to a police car and manages to add time to his clock for a day. He divides this new time with Sylvia so they stay alive until they return to the poor zone. The police set a reward of 100 years for anyone who captures them or reveals their location, because they threaten the system. Thus, Will finally succeeds in achieving his and his father's dream, equalizing the poor and rich zones. Sylvia decides to live her life with her beloved Will, trying to save the world from the greed of the rich zone. The film ends.